Ask yourself an honest question. Why are you still standing in place despite all the resources you have? Stop for a moment and think deeply about this paradox. You've watched hundreds of educational videos, read piles of relevant literature, and perfectly understand what steps need to be taken, yet you never actually take action. The truth is, the reason isn't in the external world, it's inside you. You carry destructive beliefs that undermine your determination from within. And the scariest part is that you probably don't even suspect they exist. Right now, somewhere in your potential future exists the ideal version of you, a person possessing the desired skills and living your dream life. But between your current self and that image stands a solid wall. You built this barrier yourself, brick by brick, using beliefs that seem like unshakable truths, but turn out to be mere illusions. As Niccolò Machiavelli aptly noted, people suffer most from their own delusions, and you've probably caught yourself thinking things like, "I'm not built for this," "my time has passed," or "I need to wait for the right moment." These phrases aren't facts, they're justifications disguised as wisdom that steal your best years. The time has come to admit an uncomfortable and harsh truth. The person holding you back can't be found among ill-wishers or blamed on an unfortunate set of circumstances. Your main opponent is yourself, specifically the internal narratives and stories you've unconditionally believed. You defend these fabrications with the fury of a fanatic, protecting them like sacred knowledge, when in reality they're just comfortable lies allowing you to stay in the safe shadows and avoid risk. Today, we'll expose the mechanisms of self-sabotage and provide tools for liberation. But I'm warning you right now, personal growth is always painful. So if you're truly ready to destroy your mental cage, write in the comments, "I choose truth over comfort." Let's examine the psychology of blind spots, starting with the fact that your brain works as a selective filter, showing only the version of reality that confirms your established views. This phenomenon is called confirmation bias. If you've convinced yourself you're incapable of learning languages, your memory helpfully serves up recollections of every forgotten word, while completely erasing moments of success just to reinforce your theory of your own lack of talent. The same happens with creativity. You ignore your original solutions and focus on boring ideas, resulting in years of seeing not an objective picture of the world, but an edited copy justifying your inaction. There's another extreme, optimism bias, which makes you naively believe that problems and crises affect anyone but you, causing you to neglect your financial cushion or development of new skills right until reality delivers a blow. Even more dangerous is the Dunning-Kruger effect, when superficial knowledge creates a false illusion of expertise. After reading a couple of articles, a person decides they've grasped the essence and stops learning because their inflated ego won't allow them to become a beginner again and ask advice from real professionals, leading to endless stepping on the same rakes. The most persistent trap is mental inertia, when even under pressure from irrefutable facts, you continue mental gymnastics, inventing rare exceptions and justifications just to avoid admitting you're wrong. From this fear of mistakes is born the destructive myth of innate talent. Looking at other success, you attribute everything to natural gifts, conveniently forgetting that true mastery is the result of thousands of hours of grueling practice and hundreds of failures survived while you were afraid to risk even once. Look at any skill you currently possess. You weren't born with it, you acquired it through sweat, mistakes, and endless repetition. But for some reason, you've decided that fields like technology or art operate by different laws. As Niccolò Machiavelli stated, where there is great willingness, difficulties cannot be terrible, and a wise person immediately understands what a fool only reaches after years of missed opportunities. Stop paying your fears with unrealized dreams. Admit that talent is created through work, and if you're ready to accept this challenge, leave in the comments, "I am in constant development." Social media shows us only the retouched tip of the iceberg. Perfect moments, triumphant victories, and instant success, hiding years of grueling work that remain behind the scenes. When you start something new, be prepared that for the first weeks or even months, progress will be barely noticeable, and your brain will begin treacherously whispering, maybe this just isn't for you. Abandoning things halfway, you look at those who succeeded and mistakenly believe they possess some secret gift unavailable to you. But the truth is more prosaic. Their only advantage is that they didn't give up at the very moment when it became unbearably difficult. Think about the fact that every person you admire has failed far more often than you've even tried to do anything. Famous writers whose manuscripts were rejected by dozens of publishers, great athletes who were kicked off teams and written off due to injuries, content creators who worked in a void for years before their first audience appeared. You just don't see their scars. Because of this blindness, an illusion of ease emerges, and when you yourself face obstacles, it seems the mechanism is broken. However, as Machiavelli rightly noted, a lion cannot protect itself from traps, and a fox is powerless against wolves. You need to combine cunning to recognize traps and strength to frighten enemies. Obstacles aren't stop signals, they're challenges testing your determination. We've been conditioned to think that the right path should be easy and bring joy from the first steps, but this logic is turned upside down. Ease is a synonym of comfort, and in the comfort zone, as we know, no development occurs. Staying there, you simply preserve yourself in your current state. Remember all those who quit music school after 3 months, or those who stopped going to the gym after the first absence of visible results? Difficulties aren't a sign of failure, they're the only reliable proof of your growth, because if the goal were easily achievable, it would lose all value and cease to be unique. There's another dangerous delusion masked as prudence. I'll start when I'm fully ready. In reality, this is just fear wearing the mask of perfectionism, because a state of complete readiness is a myth that will never become reality. Recall any serious change in your life. You weren't ready for it, you simply took a step into the unknown and figured it out as you went along. People lose their best years reading books about things they'll never do and planning actions they'll never take, while others launch projects with what's at hand and move far ahead. While you're waiting for the perfect moment and expensive equipment, someone's already building an empire using a phone camera and a raw idea, because practice always beats theory. Another mental trap is the belief that your time has passed, whether you're 30, 40, or 50 years old. This is an absurd mindset, forcing people to bury their dreams alive and abandon their potentials simply because of a number in their passport. History knows thousands of examples of people who changed careers and created masterpieces in mature age, proving that the only real barrier is your own belief in the impossibility of change. The price of such delusion is deep, gnawing regret that you allowed fear to make decisions for you instead of starting to act, even imperfectly. No less destructive is the reverse side, the confidence that you already know enough and there's nothing more to learn. As soon as you relax and lose curiosity, the world begins rapidly outpacing you, turning your yesterday's achievements into obsolete artifacts. Ego makes people hide their ignorance and defend outdated methods instead of humbly learning from those who've moved ahead. Or you fall into another extreme, analysis paralysis, when endless absorption of information replaces real action. Remember, 50 books read without a single practical step isn't learning, it's intellectual entertainment. You need to know just enough to take the next step, not see the entire path at once. Finally, the most expensive mistake on this list is the proud idea that you must cope entirely alone and asking for help is for the weak. We somehow cultivate the myth of the self-made person, when in reality, behind every great achievement stands a network of mentors, teachers, and like-minded people. Think about any skill you possess. You didn't invent it from scratch, you learned it from someone else, whether through a book, video, or personal advice. Refusing others' experience is not a display of strength, but the voice of wounded ego that slows your progress and deprives you of the opportunity to stand on the shoulders of giants. Using the experience of people who've already achieved what you're striving for isn't cheating, it's a manifestation of high intelligence. Imagine the situation. A person struggled unsuccessfully with a task for 2 years, the solution to which an experienced mentor could have conveyed in just a couple of months. Why does this happen? solely because of pride and the false belief that asking for help admits your own incompetence. However, having found a teacher, such people often achieve more progress in 3 months than in previous years, not because they suddenly became geniuses, but because they stopped wasting time reinventing the wheel. The cost of such isolation is unjustifiably high. Years of meaningless struggle, mistakes that could have easily been avoided, and a turtle's pace instead of rapid exponential growth. The most interesting thing is that accomplished, successful people generally sincerely want to help and share knowledge, but to accept this gift, you need sufficient humility. If you're ready to step over pride for the sake of results, write in the comments, "I am open to wisdom," to cement this intention. Now let's move to the strategy of self-knowledge and destruction of old patterns, which requires extreme, sometimes even harsh, honesty with yourself. Stop looking for excuses, smoothing corners, and living in illusions. Look at your life soberly and answer uncomfortable questions. Are you actually productive or just imitating vigorous activity, letting distractions control your time? Are your skills still relevant and competitive? Or did you reach your professional ceiling many years ago and have since been merely drifting? These questions aren't asked to be cruel, but for diagnostic accuracy. It's impossible to fix a problem you refuse to acknowledge or improve something you already consider yourself perfect at. The only objective criterion of truth are your results, not good intentions or the amount of effort expended. Results are indifferent to your story. They simply record fact. If you've been trying to get in shape for 5 years or learning a skill for months without visible progress, it means your approach is fundamentally flawed. Realizing reality liberates. When you stop lying to yourself, a chance appears to break out of the vicious circle where you're stuck in place, not understanding the reasons of stagnation. The harsh truth is that if you're trying your hardest but not moving forward, the problem isn't lack of effort, but wrong strategy. Imagine you're driving a car in the wrong direction. Does it matter how fast you're moving? Of course not, because you're just getting farther from your goal faster. Therefore, stop asking yourself if I'm working hard enough, and ask instead, is my method working? Your personality isn't a frozen monument. Phrases like, "I'm not a morning person," or "I'm shy," or "I'm not a creative person" don't describe innate facts, but habits you reinforce with every repetition. The reality is that you become who you practice being every day. Want to become confident? Behave confidently. Want to become organized? Order chaos daily. Your brain doesn't care who you actually are. It only records repeating behavioral patterns and makes them automatic. However, transformation requires leaving the comfort zone and acknowledging the fact that your current version of personality isn't suitable for future achievements. The world changes, and those who crave success must change their behavior in time with it. The person who brought you to your current point won't be able to take you to the next peak. Think about what label you've stuck on yourself just to justify your inaction, because the price of such rigidity is eternal stagnation at the same level. It's extremely important to learn to protect your resources. Not all events deserve your attention, and not every person is worthy of your energy. Many mistakenly believe that being good means agreeing to everything without refusal, but every yes to something secondary is an automatic no to your own development. An hour spent in vain can no longer be invested in what's truly important, and this approach has nothing to do with selfishness. This is pure strategy for preserving potential. Guarding personal boundaries requires courage to sometimes disappoint others, but understand, your success and growth will benefit everyone around you, while your stagnation helps no one. Ruthlessly cut off time wasters and obligations you're carrying exclusively out of guilt. This isn't a manifestation of malice, but conscious necessity. Otherwise, you risk spending your entire life serving others' interests, while your own potential fades unrealized. If you agree with this, write in the comments, "My growth matters." Knowledge itself changes nothing without practical application. So here's a concrete tool for starting changes: weekly belief audit. Every week, answer 3 questions in writing. What beliefs controlled my decisions? Do I have real proof of their truth? And did these beliefs help or hinder my progress?
Honest answers will allow you to identify hidden patterns and understand which mental blocks systematically sabotage your success. The essence of this approach is not complexity, but consistent and continuous self-awareness, which most people catastrophically lack. They live on autopilot for decades, unconsciously reproducing the same scenarios. So let's move to the second principle: reverse exercise. Take your most deep-rooted belief about your own personality and try to argumentally prove the exact opposite statement. If you consider yourself devoid of creative talent, find facts refuting this thesis. Recall situations when you found non-conventional solutions or ideas that didn't occur to others. If it seems learning is difficult for you, find evidence to the contrary by listing skills you successfully mastered or areas where you achieved notable progress. At first, this will cause internal resistance because the brain hates contradictions, but it's precisely in this discomfort that growth potential is hidden. Practice this method weekly with different beliefs, and you'll be amazed how selectively your memory works and how diligently you've built arguments in favor of limitations that don't actually exist. The third step is total monitoring, because you can only improve what can be measured. Start recording your actual behavior, not your intentions. If you're confident in your work ethic, time your pure productive work hours, and you'll be horrified how much time drains on distracting factors. Impartial numbers are the best cure for self-deception. So if you consider yourself disciplined, start tracking your habits daily. Real statistics will instantly show all the gaps in your schedule, depriving you of the ability to lie to yourself, which is a necessary condition for change. The fourth point requires you to become a strict judge. Demand physical evidence from your beliefs, not feelings or conjectures. When your inner voice insists you're incapable of learning something new, ask a tough question: where's the evidence? Analyze what exactly you tried to learn, how long the attempts lasted, and what methods were applied, because most often limiting beliefs crumble at the first interrogation. They're based not on objective reality, but on a couple of failed experiences you've blown up to the scale of personality. So ruthlessly discard any belief that can't present an alibi in the form of facts. The fifth principle states that an outside perspective is vitally necessary, since our self-perception is always distorted by subjectivity. Find someone who values you enough to dare to tell you the truth, not what you want to hear, and ask them which of your self-perceptions are false. Listen to the answer silently, suppressing the desire to justify or defend yourself, even if it hits your ego. It's precisely wounded pride that's kept you in place, so sometimes it's vitally important to break old vows you made to yourself about who you are and what you can't do. Write this down and save it for yourself. Truth is the only guide leading to development. The sixth step suggests that you choose just one limiting belief this week and take an action that directly refutes that belief. If you're convinced you're unsporty, simply devote 20 minutes to physical activity, whether a walk or stretching. The main thing is start moving. If technology is a barrier, spend half an hour learning a new application, not striving to become an expert, but merely aiming to plant seeds of doubt in your own incompetence. By doing this regularly, you'll realize your insurmountable barriers are just fictional stories you've grown to believe.
The seventh point is the 5-year perspective test. Ask yourself, where will you be if you continue holding on to your current belief for another 5 years? Imagine how much time will be lost if you continue considering yourself too old to start or insist on coping entirely alone. Your future is formed by today's thoughts, and in 5 years, you'll either regret your inaction or be grateful for the changes. The choice of sides is yours. The eighth principle calls for seeking evidence of possibility. For each of your limitations, there exists a person in the world who refuted it. If it seems you lack talent or have unsuitable origins, find examples of people who started from even lower positions and achieved success. Stop seeking confirmation of your weaknesses and start studying biographies of those who broke similar barriers, allowing their existence to prove the falsity of your fears. The ninth step requires reformatting your internal dialogue, as the language you use to describe yourself programs your reality. Replace categorical "I can't" with temporary "I haven't learned yet," and "this is impossible" with "this is a difficult task I'll solve."
These aren't empty affirmations, but linguistic precision. Your brain believes repetitions, so start loading it with truth about potential, not lies about powerlessness. Conduct a complete belief inventory, spending half an hour writing out all your beliefs, positive, negative, and neutral. Subject each to strict audit, asking yourself, does this thought help me? Where did it come from? And is there objective evidence it could be wrong? You'll probably be surprised realizing the true scale of others' influence on your worldview. Beliefs inherited from parents and mentors, echoes of past failures, social pressure, and irrational fears. All this forms beliefs you accepted on faith without even trying to subject them to criticism. We've examined in detail the mechanisms by which the brain distorts reality, whether confirmation bias, optimism illusion, Dunning-Kruger effect, or stubborn defense of false truths. And now it's time to reconsider this shaky foundation, discarding everything superficial and foreign. During our discussion, we debunked costly myths about innate talent, easy success, and waiting for the perfect moment, the very delusions that keep people in stagnation for years, and offered instead concrete strategies for gaining clarity, evaluating yourself by real results, and protecting your resources. However, I must voice the harsh truth. Possessing this information changes absolutely nothing by itself, because genuine personal transformation only occurs at the moment accumulated knowledge begins turning into consistent action. Right now, before switching attention to other matters, complete one simple but important task. Identify just one blind belief that's slowing your development. Fix it on paper, then formulate a concrete step to fight it this week. Don't postpone this until tomorrow, and don't wait for special inspiration, because the cost of delay is another week, month, or year wasted, and you've already paid this tribute to your own inaction for too long. Remember, the most dangerous person isn't one who doesn't know something, but one who's unshakably certain they've already grasped all the answers. Therefore, your real growth will only begin when you doubt your own infallibility. If this material made you experience useful discomfort and look at familiar things from a new angle, support these ideas and share them with those stuck in uncertainty. Your potential isn't exhausted at all. It's simply buried under a layer of false dogmas. And the main question is only whether you're finally ready to take the tool and start digging.